Welcome back to another Thoughtful Dots YouTube tutorial. Today we are doing our final ornament in the Christmas in July series. So we will be painting another 4-inch ornament. I'm really glad it all worked out perfect. The Christmas in July idea came late in July, so I really only had like a week to get all these videos together. So it ended up working out perfect because I had just got the Happy Dotting Company, the new stencil set that has the 5 segment, the 6, and the 7. And I really wanted to try to get 2 tutorials using each of them, and I did, so that's awesome. So today we will be doing our last 4-inch ornament using the 7 segment stencil. These are awesome if you're interested in getting the stencils. I will leave a link for all the tools used in this video in the description of the video. So yeah, we'll be doing the 7 segment again, and I will be using the Thoughtful Dots stylus tools, which I created specifically as a mandala artist, but mostly from a teacher perspective. I wanted tools that had the millimeter size right on the handle to make it really easy for you guys to follow along with my tutorials. So I will be using these today. You can buy these in my Etsy shop, linked in the description of the video, along with, oh, I feel sneeze coming, excuse me. Along with my Thoughtful Dots brushes, same thing. I wanted brushes specifically for mandala painting. So I created my own set, 2 sets. I have a rigger brush set that has longer bristles, and then a shorter liner brush set that has some shorter bristle brushes. I love both sets, honestly. So hopefully we get to use some brushes today. I will be using the dotting rods by Happy Dotting Company. Love these, been using these since I started painting, so about 5 or 6 years. Not the same set. I've gotten a few new sets since then. And what else? Rhinestones. I haven't showed you the palette yet, but we are doing a Christmas color palette today. I had to at least get one Christmas color palette in there, but changing it up a little bit by using some teal. So yeah, let's, I think that's all for tools. If I end up using anything else, I will let you guys know, but let's first go ahead and do our guide marks. These are 4-inch ornaments from Nate Co. on Etsy. You can use the code TDOTS for 10% off of your order and free shipping in the United States. And you can use that code for any of their mandala rounds. I paint on these, but I also use them for my 30-inch rounds, 36-inch rounds, 18, 24. They have all the sizes. So if you get a mandala round, you can use that 10% off code with any of those. Really great company for wood. The mandala rounds have the center marked, which is amazing. Pretty smooth wood. I do sand mine a little bit. So like for these, I painted the base with Folk Art multi-surface satin, and then I let it dry, and then I use just I've had this forever. It's just a sanding block. It's like a really light grit, and I just lightly go over the top after I do the base. And typically I don't need another coat, but you could do another coat if you wanted, just to smooth it out a bit. But yeah, having the center marked is a game changer for sure. If you do not have wood rounds or ornaments with the center marked, I recommend just Google or YouTubing how to find the center of a circle, and you'll find multiple methods. Just find the one that works best for you. And let's draw our guide marks. So 7 segment stencil. Just making sure that, so we're doing the X, and we want this vertical guide mark to go through where the hole is, and that will keep the pattern nice and in line. When we get it hung with a string, we want the pattern to be nice and lined up. So I'm just doing that X. I'm using this Bressarth white charcoal pencil. I also have a link to my Amazon shop in all of my videos. A lot of the tools that I use, obviously not the Thoughtful Dots brand, those are on Etsy, but a lot of my other things like pencils, compass, Lazy Susan, a lot of the just like random stuff that I use, a lot of it comes from Amazon. So if you want to check out my Amazon shop, that is linked below. Okay, so we have all of our vertical guide marks, and now we're going to go do the circular ones. I am currently 7 months pregnant, 31 weeks. And so my fingers have been a little bit swollen lately, so I haven't really been able to wear my rings, but I just put these on this morning. We'll see how long it lasts. When they start to like not be able to come off, I panic. But yeah, I don't like not wearing my wedding ring. I'm going to add a couple more guide marks, circular guide marks. So I'm just taking this compass, putting it in the center, and then I'm just going to kind of eyeball the center of these guide marks and this one, and then I'm going to do the same. So we're basically just dividing them in half to give us double the amount of guide marks. Sometimes it's nice to have more guide marks to work with. They just kind of keep your pattern nice and in line. I always say it's better to have too many than not enough, so. Okay, again, we are gonna just kind of go with the flow on the pattern today. Let's pour our paint into our palette. So I am using Alizarin Crimson, Tuscan Red, Mermaid Tail, and Forest Green. So more traditional Christmas colors, but had to switch it up just a little by putting some teal in there. So let's do the crimson. Tuscan Red. So a deeper reddish that has a little bit of a purple undertone. Tuscan Red. What order do I want these in? Does it matter? Forest Green. Mermaid Tail. Oh, that needs to be mixed up. So I will just call those by name as we go. And then for accent color, so usually for my color palettes, I like to have my color palette with the matte DecoArt colors and then a metallic accent color. So for my metallic accent color today, I'm using DecoArt's Dazzling Metallic Champagne Gold. And then I usually like to pair it with a dimensional paint that is the same color. So this Tulip puff paint is a really pretty gold. It's more champagne compared to the Nuvo Drops Gold. So whenever I'm using, this is the Nuvo Drops Gold. They look very similar, but this one is a little bit more yellow, more like traditional gold. This one has a little bit more of a champagne color. So whenever I'm using champagne gold as my accent, I like to use the Tulip puff paint for dimensional paint. And if you aren't very familiar with dimensional paint, I use dimensional paint in all of my paintings, whether it's Tulip, Nuvo Drops, Bliss Drops, which you guys have seen me use, which we'll probably use today. I need to grab the gold. Actually, I'll grab that so I can show you guys. Bliss Drops has really good glitter paint, so I will use some of this today. But dimensional paint is my favorite, so I actually have a whole video on my YouTube channel. If you look, it says like texture and dimension. I tried out a bunch of different dimensional paints for you guys, so you can go see what you have available to you wherever you live, what country you're in. You might have different things available, but yeah, this is what we'll be using today for our dimensional paint. And anything else? I think that is it. Still having my coffee. All right, before we dive into today's video, I just quickly want to tell you about my Thoughtful Dots Patreon membership. If you love mandala painting and want to take your skills to the next level, you won't want to miss all of the amazing information provided to you there. Patreon is where I teach weekly live classes, giving you the chance to watch me paint in real time, ask questions, and interact as we go. As a member, you'll get instant access to a growing library of over 100 on-demand tutorials, ranging from small 4-inch designs to full-size masterclasses, all at your own pace. We have built such a fun and encouraging community by engaging with one another through weekly live classes, monthly color palette challenges, and a 24-hour group chat where you can share your work, ask questions, and connect with others who love this art just as much as you do. You can now try Patreon free for 7 days to explore everything included in your membership before committing. I will put the link in the description of this video, and I hope to see you over there. Okay, so for the ornaments that we've done already, I tend to do like a larger center. I just like the way it looks. But today, we are going to change it up and test out just a smaller center dot. So I'm going to use this 9.5 and the champagne gold. I can see a little bit of dried paint there that might give me trouble. So just dotting right, oh, we got a bubble. So I just wipe up where that, oh, there's another bubble. Come on. And then I just kind of hover over the top to even it out again. I'm gonna add a little bit more. Wiping off my tool. I am just going to smooth this out a bit. I think I want to add a like really dimensional dot on top of this once it dries. So I want it to be more flat. I'll either do the glitter, like a big glitter in the center, or puff paint. I think these have like peaks though. They don't dry mounded. So maybe the glitter I'll do in the center there. And then let's think here, because I want this to be different than the other patterns we've done. Normally I do like a big center dot and I like a lot of rings of dots, but let's see if we can switch it up. So I want to see if I do rhinestones right away. So if we do rhinestones right away, we don't have a ton of space in between. So we might need to do a couple rings of dots. Let me think here. I don't know, or maybe that's how we like switch it up here. Let's do one ring of dot using a red to tie that red in. Let's do the 1.5 and the Tuscan Red. Just getting these as close to one another as possible without touching, and as close to that gold center dot without touching it, and just focusing on making these all the same size. As we get towards the end here, I just kind of like to eyeball. I think there's like too much space for 3 dots, but not enough for 4. So what I think I'll do is try to do 3, but spread them out just a little bit. That actually ended up working perfect. So as you're building a mandala, you start from the center and work outward. So before the red ring of dots, when I set the rhinestones down, there was a lot smaller gap in between. So like the more rings of dots you do, the more space you're gonna end up having in between your rhinestones because the patterns are getting wider as you go out. So just adding that one ring of dots gave me more space in between each rhinestone so that I have more space to do like a swoosh or something there. Before it was really, really tight, so it didn't give me a lot of room. So I think just that one ring is good enough. And we are going to use mounting putty to temporarily place our rhinestones. This is Gorilla Glue mounting putty. If you saw it in my last ornament video, I ended up, because these, you temporarily place them, and then once it dries, you can take them off and kind of mess around with other color rhinestones and see which ones you like best. So yesterday's video, or the last ornament tutorial, I tried like 3 different color combinations with rhinestones, or 4, I can't remember. So I showed those all at the end, but I ended up swapping out the colors quite a few times until I found the one that I liked most. So that is the cool thing about temporarily placing rhinestones, is you get to see how the different colors look with the pattern, and then you can decide which one you like best. But the main reason for using the putty is so we can paint around the rhinestones, and then once it dries, you take the rhinestones off, wipe off the guide marks, varnish, and then glue on the rhinestones once it's all varnished. So hopefully this will still look Christmassy with the teal. I was looking at Christmas palettes on Pinterest and I saw a couple that had teal and I liked it, so we're gonna go with it. So I did these on every other vertical guide mark, starting with the first one. You just want to make sure you have a rhinestone on the vertical guide mark that goes through the hole. So we want to make sure our pattern is nice and in line with that hole so that when it hangs, you have like a nice point there. Just make sure they're all in line. And I'm going to, we don't have a lot of space here. Like there's not enough space really to do a brush stroke. You could, but it would be really thin. So whenever you're picking a pattern, just make sure to like look at the spacing that you have. So I think I have enough room to do like a dot and drag swoosh down. So we are going to take the 2.5 stylus and the gold and do a large dot right at the tip of that rhinestone on the vertical guide mark. These are not very lined up on there. There we go. Okay, and then we're gonna take the 1.5 end and our champagne gold. And we are going to do a dot and drag swoosh, outlining. The rhinestone. These colors are really pretty so far. I love this champagne gold color. It's so pretty. Just very soft, not too yellowy. Got a little paint on that rhinestone, so we'll take a Q-tip and wipe it up. So I'm actually wondering if we're going to need that mermaid tail color because we already have the teal rhinestones. Like that might be enough teal, but we'll kind of see as we go. We might end up not using that one because I think we want more green since, yeah, the rhinestones are already adding that teal color. Okay, and I do want another rhinestone pattern. Again, I mentioned before, I want my ornaments to be like really sparkly and lots of dimensions, so I am using a lot of rhinestones. If you don't like rhinestones, you can use like an oval tool instead of these. I am placing the rhinestones in between the petals on the vertical guide mark, and the tip is just coming up to this guide mark right here, because we are going to do some brush strokes and we want to make sure we have enough space for our brush strokes to start and then come down into this little gap here. Those might be a little bit high, but we're going to no, I think it's fine. So yeah, we might actually not even have enough room to add in the teal, the mermaid tail color. That is the hard thing about such a small surface, is you just don't have a lot of room to work with, not a lot of room for many patterns. So it's hard to use like a lot of colors on these little small surfaces. Okay, so now we need to figure out how to incorporate these colors. I think I want brush strokes because it will be more bold. If we do brush strokes, we can do 1, 2, 3, which is actually perfect because we have these 3 colors. So maybe we start with green. It's tricky, tricky, tricky. Okay, let's start. I'm gonna use the liner brush, the 2/0, and the forest green. So we're gonna bring this all the way to the edge of the board. So with these, you want to remember we need enough room to do 2 more brush strokes after this. So again, this vertical guide mark is your boundary line on each side. So you want to make sure you have enough room to do 2 more brush strokes before you hit that boundary line, which the spacing so far looks perfect. So just go nice and slow. You want to use a lot of pressure at the beginning to get it nice and thick, and then let up on the pressure to come to a point. We're just kind of outlining the rhinestone, getting close up against it without touching it. So if you wanted this to be more like traditional Christmas colors, you could, instead of using teal rhinestones, use red or green. Next, I'm going to do the Alizarin Crimson. And these ones are going to be shorter. So I'm going to start at this circular guide mark right here, maybe a little bit above it. And then again, you just want to make sure you have enough room for another brush stroke after this. It is getting a little bit tight, so I think I need to make these a little thinner. To make sure that I have enough room for one more brush stroke after. And ending with the Tuscan Red, which is more vibrant, I think will make everything just pop. Okay, rinsing off the brush. And now I'm going to use the same brush, 2/0 with the Tuscan Red. And these ones are going to be slightly shorter again. And they do need to be a little bit thinner in order to fit into this gap nicely. And then I am crossing over the previous crimson brush stroke in order to get my brush stroke to fit nicely down into that gap. Painting around the hole. Pretty. Okay, now we're going to add in some gold. So I'm going to use the Tulip puff paint in gold. If you don't have dimensional paint, you can just use regular champagne gold and a stylus tool to make some swooshes. So I'm going to be making 3 swooshes. So I'm going to start with 1 and then use my 0.5 micro dotting tool to drag down, and then a shorter dot on each side, and then again use the micro dotting tool to drag down. So cute, and that ties in more of that gold. Painting just around that hole. So if you're using a stylus, you can use a larger stylus, maybe the blue 2.5 end to make a dot, and then use a smaller stylus to drag down into a swoosh. I also have a whole beginner series playlist here on YouTube where I go over some of these more basic patterns, including swooshes with the stylus. So definitely check that out. Lots of great beginner tutorials here on my YouTube channel. I try to make my YouTube channel geared more towards beginners for free content so that you can learn everything you need to know about the basics of mandala painting for free. And then the rest I teach over on my Patreon. Ooh, this looks pretty. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, I want to get more of the green in there, so I think what I'll do is use this 2.5 and the green to do a dot. I think I'll just do a dot. Sometimes I like to drag them into a teardrop, but I think a dot works better here. And then I want something at the edge here. Was thinking the teal, but I don't know. I feel like we have enough teal with the rhinestone, so maybe gold glitter. So I'm going to make a dot in this gap over here, and then use my micro dotting tool to make a little swoosh. And that will also kind of frame the edge. If you like the black space, you can totally skip this part. Pretty. So I mentioned to you guys before, the Bliss drop starts out a little milky, but it will dry like this. So you can see the difference of the wet versus the dry. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna let the brush strokes dry a little bit because I wanna go in and add a little bit more glitter. But I think that turned out really pretty. So yeah, I'll give this a minute to dry and we'll come back and finish. Okay, so it's not completely dry, but it's dry enough. So what I want to do is add the Bliss drops in the color Bambi, gold glitter. I want to do a large glittery dot, like a very large dimensional dot in the center. So that will dry nice and plump and glittery. And then I want to just put a little bit of this in my palette. And I'm going to use my rigger brush to over zero and just get a little bit of that glitter paint from the palette. Just a tiny, tiny bit on the tip. And I'm just gonna go right through the center of the Tuscan Red swoosh, just adding a little bit of a glitter highlight. So really thin, we just want it right through the center because we don't want to cover up that red. And also once this dries, it will show through more. Just seeing if I want to add anything else. I think that is good. So I'll let this dry just a little bit longer so that you can see everything nice and dry, but I think that turned out gorgeous. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. I actually really like the teal with this palette. I feel like it changes it up a little bit. Nice and sparkly. And then I did also want to show you guys, I got a bunch of ribbon. I got these from Amazon. Not that I will ever in my lifetime need this much ribbon. But will be nice to have. And I'll show you so I've just been picking matching ribbon. For the ornaments. And I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with all these ornaments. I was thinking of like giving them as gifts, but also I love Christmas, but my husband and I are very just like, we haven't been super traditional because we haven't had kids yet, but we're having our first baby in October right before Christmas. So I feel like we will, for the first time, want to get a tree and do decorations and stuff. So I'm thinking it would be fun to get a tree and just make it a mandala tree and just have a ton of different colored mandala ornaments. Kind of fitting, since that is my career, mandala artist. I think that would be a nice little touch for our Christmas. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening, but I do plan on making more ornaments. You can use all these patterns that I've taught and go back and do them in a bunch of different colors. All right, I'll let this dry and we will be back. I wish I had more sunshine so you guys could actually see all of that sparkle, but here's how it looks. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed. That is the last tutorial in our Christmas in July series. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video.